This is Steve Spurrier. You can join University of Florida Hall of Famer Shane Matthews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Well, happy Friday to you. Seth Harp from Harp on Sports in for Shane Matthews, the QB here on this Friday, 21st day of June 2024. Of course, PodUp with Matthews in the morning, coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got a busy show planned out for you, JC. We're going to be joining us momentarily here. If you have any questions for us, feel free to fire away, courtesy of one of the platforms, depending on what platform it is, Meldon Law, courtesy of Meldon Law on Facebook. The Meldon Law Facebook Live question brought to you by, of course, Meldon Law, the official injury and accident law partner of the Florida Gators. Feel free, courtesy of Quality Plumbing, residential, commercial plumbing services in emergency repair since 1984. Their name says it. Also, that's a text for us. Courtesy of the Titan MRI hotline, 352-353-7465. Oh, yes, courtesy of the Titan MRI hotline. What do we have in store for you? Going to start off coming up here momentarily. We had, now's where you start to get into that time of season where games aren't stories anymore. Off the field stories become stories. That's predominantly the case a lot of the time. But now, particularly at this time of year, you basically have 5-6 weeks until NFL training camps open up. SEC media days, I know they're a month away, but then you've got a couple more weeks after that, and then a lot of sitting around is where you are. So, we start to look around the corner here, and it's like, okay, the College World Series is wrapping up, and after that, the college sports season comes to an end, and then when the fall hits, we're going to be in a new world, aren't we? A new look ACC, a new look Big Ten, a new look Big 12, and of course we know with Texas and Oklahoma entering the chat when it comes to the SEC, an entirely new look SEC as well. So, yeah, that's what we got in store for you. A lot to look at when it comes to what's on the horizon. I have a Gator question, and now that the College World Series is done for the Florida Gators and Kevin O'Sullivan and Jack Caglione, last night, I thought what took place at Rickwood Field was fantastic. Baseball gets a lot of criticism, deservedly so, for how they handle a lot of things. But Rob Manfred, what he's done and what baseball has done the last 2 years, I think has been very impressive. Going from the pitch clock to the universal DH to how they handle historical events and historical moments, whether it be the Field of Dreams game last night was amazing. And baseball has itself an opportunity now. You saw something last night. Baseball has struggled and has been hurt over the course of the last 20, 25 years by declining African-American participation in its sport. And you talk about the all-time greats in baseball, and just watching that last night, I mean, let's face it. It leads to another question. We always talk about who's the greatest living baseball player. Who's the greatest baseball player alive? Who's the greatest baseball player alive? That's a discussion that doesn't really exist. We talk about GOATs and things of that nature in other sports, but baseball, it's always been one of this reflective things that we look back on the past with. Who's the greatest living baseball player ever? When I was a kid, it was always Joe DiMaggio. He's the greatest living baseball player. Living legend, if you will. And then it went from Joe to Ted Williams, and then Ted Williams to Hank Aaron to Willie Mays. So since Teddy Ballgame left us 20 years ago, it's been an African-American. Whether it be Hank Aaron or Willie Mays. Greatest living legend in baseball. And the fact that the numbers are declining so much, it begs the question, well, how do you rebuild it? How do you rebuild it? How do you rebuild it? And last night gave you a little bit of a glimpse in how you do it if you're Major League Baseball, because what you could do in that moment is you conjunction Major League Baseball, Negro Leagues Hall of Fame, that event that night in Birmingham. I went through and looked the 10 old Negro League parks that are still in existence. One's in Jacksonville. And you look back through at these old parks, and a lot of them are just chain link fences now around a dirt track and an old school grandstand. They rebuilt that sucker last night. Did a beautiful job rebuilding that sucker. And if you really want to create interest, Major League Baseball can bounce around the country going to these different parks, helping them rebuild, hosting these events. That's how you rebuild it. You generate interest in these urban areas, these urban core areas, by rebuilding these parks and bringing the attention and the monetary push that you were able to bring into the park last night. I thought it was great. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was brilliant. Baseball is the only sport that can do something like this. I was thinking about this, like, okay, you played at the Field of Dreams game because they're one-offs, right? You can get away with that for one night. Football, the gate and the revenue is just too much. We saw this. Football needs to go to a more grandiose scale. It's been 8 years ago now, but when Tennessee and Virginia Tech played at Bristol Motor Speedway, that was fantastic. That was beautiful. Loved that. I love college basketball. It's been a decade now, but when they played on the aircraft carrier in Jacksonville, I thought that was cool. But football really doesn't grant itself the opportunity just because of the amount of people that you need in the stadium, and nobody's going to sacrifice a 100,000, 80,000, 70,000 seat gate for an event like this. And football, historic throwbacks. The only thing I could think is you could technically play a football game like in front of the Washington Monument on the 250th anniversary of America coming up here, 3 years. But then building the grandstand and building that up all around it, feasibility, I don't know how you could do that. But these events are great, and this is what baseball does better than anybody else. Basketball did it in an aircraft carrier in Jacksonville. I always thought that basketball could do something cool between like the Knicks and the Celtics, or the Knicks and the Lakers at Rucker Park. There's things like that. But hey, man, I thought it was a great night for Major League Baseball. It was isolated. It was by itself. There was nothing else competing with it. And baseball nailed it last night. They absolutely nailed it. We're going to bring JC in here.
Hey, buddy.
Buck Wade writes in, baseball numbers are bad because the game is boring until October. Okay, Buck, then I guess bail on it. Don't even try to fix it. Why would you even bother with it? No, it's one of these things that baseball did a good job last night. They nailed that. I don't know how much I know you're a little under the weather, JC. Thanks for battling with us. Is it actual? Is it like the flu? Is it food poisoning? Is it allergic reaction to Ozempic? What is it?
That's it. Seth, you're a wizard. I'm taking this on Donestron for nausea because I'm taking these damn shots and they're working, man. It's pre-diabetic. I'm pre-diabetic, so I get these shots. I've lost, and it's reversible, so I'm reversing it. And man, it's pretty dramatic. I've gone from 2 weeks ago, Seth. I just threw up, by the way. 2 weeks ago, Seth, you would have been proud of me. But 2 weeks ago, I was at 214 pounds. For a guy 5'9", that's not good. I am now at 198 in 2 weeks, and I don't eat or drink hardly anything that I like anymore, or that I used to drink and eat. And this morning was rough. I don't know what the hell happened. This is the first time this happened, Seth, but it's this thing called semaglutide, and it's working, but there is some side effects. So they give you this for the nausea. But, of course, I took the nausea pill, and then I threw up. So I probably threw it right back out. I don't know. Hey, anyway, more importantly, drink water. I'm sorry I missed what you were open with, but man, I heard you say baseball. All right, I'm all about baseball, especially because when your team is doing well, you kind of like it, right? Now, aside from the College World Series, which I think is fabulous, one of my favorite sporting events of all time, you've got 4 teams in the majors, in my opinion. You've got Baltimore, LA, Philadelphia, and the Yankees. And then there's another tier of teams. And the way I look at it right now, those teams have kind of sort of separated, in my mind, from the rest of the league. And anybody can get hot in July. Anybody can get hot in August. Who knows? The Cardinals could run off 20 straight games. Anything could happen, right? But baseball is interesting, at least to me. And since I'm talking to you, that's what you're going to hear. And that means I love the Yankees and the way they're playing, but I'm scared to death of the Orioles, finally. For the first time in 30 years, I am scared of the Orioles and the Dodgers and, of course, the Phillies. So that's the way I look at baseball right now. As far as college goes, Seth, I mean, who do you like? You got A&M and Tennessee. These 2 teams are so good offensively and pitching. I think you got the 2 best teams. Do you think that?
Yeah, and this is one of these things that, you look back this year in men's college sports, major college sports. I don't know if the men's college football playoff gave us the 2 best teams, but it gave us one of the 2. I thought the 2 best teams at the end of the year were Texas and Michigan. We got Michigan and Washington. Okay. Basketball, the 2 best teams played each other. Purdue and UConn were the 2 best teams. UConn was just so much better than everybody else.
So much better, yeah.
I think you got the 2 best teams in college baseball. Yeah. Tennessee won the SEC baseball tournament. They're red hot. And then Texas A&M, the pitching that they've gotten. Now, A&M's banged up a little bit, right? The right fielder's banged up a little bit. They've got some injury concerns, some injury situations. But the 2 best teams are playing each other. And
they are.
I was thinking about this, too, that the SEC is going to win another championship here. And then you're going to throw Texas and Oklahoma into the fray next year. And
Crazy.
Texas baseball, they figure it out. It's going to be it's going to be more of a shot in the arm in softball than it is in baseball. It may be more of a shot in the arm in softball than any other sport with those 2 coming in, but football will have its day as well. I look at it and it's the 2 best teams playing each other. And I was thinking about this as, Florida season comes to an end. And I did a podcast on this, by the way, Harp on Sports, the bar, check it out, harponsports.com. And at Harp.
Oh, okay. All right.
Social media platforms. Or all your, I should say, podcasting platforms. This year was the 2nd most successful season ever for Kevin O'Sullivan at Florida. Wow. I know that they've gotten to the championship series and lost, and he's won it. The year that he won it's the most successful. This year's the 2nd most successful. You talk about your expectations and exceeding your expectations. When is the last time Florida baseball exceeded their expectations?
Well, the year they won it, were they supposed to win it?
I don't.
I don't know. But I will tell you that the way they finished really has to leave a very good taste in everyone's mouth. And obviously I'm speaking I think I'm just saying what's obvious here, but what would happen if the University of Texas, comes to him and says, here's a check, you fill in the box. And I'm not trying to stir up anything, but dude, when you do as good a job as he did, people notice that. And when they see that he took a team that played 500 baseball, but won the most important series of its season at the end of the season, and then just trucked through the regional and super regional after losing to Oklahoma State in the regional, and then just blasting through to the Final Four. You're telling me they're not looking at him? Of course they are looking at it. Chris Del Conte would be committing malpractice if he wasn't looking at Kevin O'Sullivan. And I know Kevin loves it here. His everything is here, right? Everything, family-wise, all that. Children. I just think, though, that these guys all like to be they like to be courted. They like to be wanted. They like to be liked. They want to be a part of something special. And he is here. But what if they said at the University of Texas, Kevin, you fill in that little box and we'll sign it on the bottom.
Well, as I've gotten into my 40s, my loyalties consist of commas. And,
yes,
they consist of commas.
They do.
And
right.
Everybody likes to think that fans of sports are attached because of their heart. The people that run sports,
their
play
business,
sports, they're attached because of the monetary value.
It's a big part of it. It's a big part of it.
I tell to coaches, I tell this to fans all the time. Every coach that you have, for the most part, you got because you paid more money for than the guy that they were. They saw a better opportunity. They left to come to you. So everybody's a mercenary at the end of the day. You throw enough commas and enough zeros around it, people are going to do what they want. And I look back on it, and of course, Jack Caglione. There's one thing that this run did, JC. Not that it was really much of a debate. You probably could have it if you wanted to have it. This run into Omaha, being one of the final 3 teams, just like softball was, this cemented Jack Caglione as the greatest Gator college baseball player ever.
I mean, there's only one guy you can compare him to, and I think you're right. We had this discussion on the phone with some friends of mine, and one or two said Wilkerson, but I think it's Jack. I think he creates more fear than anybody in the game right now, and I just think he can bring, when healthy, a 98-mile-an-hour fastball from the left side. And Brad was a lefty too, but Brad didn't throw it like that. Yeah. And sometimes you have control issues. The fact is that he's going to be a hitter in the pros. I truly believe that. He'll absolutely be a hitter. Everybody knows this. And as a hitter with power, I think he's a little bit better, just a little bit better. Although Brad was great, not good. He was great. But I think Jack, it's a hard discussion, but comparisons like this are always difficult, generationally speaking. But I'm with you, Seth. I think Jack Caglione is the great. I mean, he's had more home runs than any other Gator, right? He passed Matt Laporta in the College World Series. And we talk about Jack and how fortunate it is that he got this platform to display his talents in the postseason because of how successful the Gators were and how important that is because of who's watching, right? And look at him now, man. I mean, he's going to be in everybody. If he's not one of the top 3 picks, the guys picking don't know what they're doing, because this guy is a natural. He's a natural.
And he again, he cements himself as the greatest Gator baseball player of all time. That's what, when you look back on this, that's what it did. It also allowed, and this is what I always love this, JC, and people that say this usually belong in a certain file. When you hear people say, I'd rather have somebody with heart over talent any day of the week.
No.
Well, Florida baseball went on the run that they went on because that young talent, after 50, 55, 60 games, started to come together. We see it in Major League Baseball all the time. Teams will sit there, JC, they'll be 50 and 50, 100 games in, and then they'll go 40 and 20 in the next, and then they're a playoff team. It's like, what happened here? We see it in the NFL all the time, where a team will be 5-5 with 7 games to go 5-2 down the stretch, or 6-1 down the stretch, and they're 11-6, and they're a playoff team. You're like, what happened here? Because it clicked. Everything came together. These guys were we had 7 guys, including the top 2 pitchers from last year, that were gone. You had to replace 7 guys, and it took 50, 55 games for it to figure out. But it's because you had elite talent that this happened, and the talent started to come together, and it worked. So that's what the big, I guess, mechanism was for me in all of this. It was a successful season. And this goes back to, you go back and look, JC, the one team that had the number 1 seed, I think it was in 2016, that went there and got beat its first 2 games, that had, I don't know how many wins they had, in the high 50s. You look back
I'm trying to remember 2016.
Yeah.
My God.
It was Alonzo, India. Man, was India there? That team, you look back and I ask Gator fans, is that season success? You'd be like, no, we lost our first 2 games. This season sneaks in, goes to the Final Four in Omaha. Was it a successful season? People say yes. And by fan reaction, everybody's happy about this team. When's the last time you could say that about any sport that didn't win a championship, JC, that the fan base is happy about a team's season?
I just think, and I think because of the length of baseball, the amount of games you play, it gives you a better chance to come around. In football, I'm going to tell you the truth, dude. If they lose one of the first 3 games of football, there will be rats jumping off the ship, rightly or wrongly.
Yes.
But if they don't win that Miami game, and if they look bad against Texas A&M, or one of those 2 things happens, I'm telling you, they're going to be flying off the boat. But in
Yeah.
baseball, you've got time to recover. In football, you do too. But because of the last 2 years in football, fans have zero patience, right? So that's going to be a pressure type of situation for that team. But I hope it doesn't affect them, and I think they'll play well. But you're right. I think you're looking at the SEC, Seth. 2017 Florida, right? 2018, I think Oregon State beat Arkansas, who should have won if a guy can catch a pop-up at foul territory. Then in 2019, we had another SEC team play for it, and I'm just trying to think. From 2017 on, we've had it was Vanderbilt, and then in 2020 we had no World Series because of the COVIDia, which I feel like I have right now, which I don't. And then I'm just throwing up. That's all. And then in 2021, we had it was probably, it was Mississippi. Okay. It was Mississippi. And then in 2022, it was, who was it?
State.
It was State. And then in 2023, you had LSU, and you're going to have, and Florida was playing LSU. And then here in 2024, you're going to have another SEC team. And I'm missing Vanderbilt's second championship, but whatever. I think from 2017, Oregon State's the only team since 2017 that was not an SEC team to win the College World Series, and they played against an SEC team that should have beat them. So I guess the point of this little trip down memory lane is that you've got a team playing in the best conference in the sport, going to the Final Four. That was considered mediocre, but we all now learned was a little bit better than mediocre because of the postseason. Yeah. Okay, I think I got that out.
No, and
without barfing all over the table here.
Yeah, and you look at what it is in baseball, what it is in football, and it's what I used to point to all the time because the conferences have changed a little bit, but it's like what the Big East was when people were like, oh, we're 10-6 in our conference. Those Big East teams are only 9-7. It's like, well, that's a different beast, baby.
The ACC learned that, dude. The ACC learned that the hard way. I mean, Florida State to me was the most dangerous looking ACC team because of the way they played offense, but they couldn't catch. And then you had UNC that went impotent, and Virginia was 2 in barbecue. The ACC did what exactly? Clemson was hosting Florida, and they went 2 in barbecue. And I don't know. I just think that this league is far and away surpassed everything in college baseball.
So back to my initial premise. Those ACC teams lost because they didn't have enough heart, or because the other teams had more talent?
The other teams were better. I wanted to win every game, but I hit in the 7-hole because I hit 260, maybe 270 in high school. But I was great defensively, and I really wanted to win. But they had better hitters above me in that lineup, and sometimes I wasn't in it against certain pitching. So yeah, I mean, I hear you, dude. Heart is great, but talent's going to win.
Proved everything clicked and it worked, and it was a great run. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, brought to you in part by Silverback Concrete. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. Also, JC, Peachland Dentistry. At least you don't have to go get a root canal today. Gator Nation's #1 choice of dentistry in Port Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. That's peachlanddental.com.
Love Big Joe Lawson, the dentist down there at Port Charlotte. Played golf with him on a couple golf trips down the Bahamas, and this guy has been a loyal sponsor of this award-winning show for probably the better part of almost 4 years now. So God bless Joe. And they went through a damn hurricane. They went through a hurricane.
Andy writes in, Seth, JC, do you guys think Keggs pitches in the majors? No. We think that he is, and he can bring it at 98 from the south side. He can, but I think control is sometimes could be an issue in the big leagues. Not necessarily. Maybe hitting is where they're going to focus him. I just think you have a longer shelf life if you're a hitter. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think you do. And size-wise, who he reminds me of, it's a different position. He's a left-handed Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant that played for the Cubs all those years before injuries kind of finally derailed him there when he went to San Francisco and then Colorado. Chris Bryant was a 30-90 guy, an MVP guy, a guy that won a World Series. He has the build, and at the plate, he reminds me of what Chris Bryant was coming up. So we'll see how long it takes him, because JC, a year ago at this time, we were talking about the Gator baseball team playing in the final series of the College World Series, led by, of course, Jack Caglione, but Wyatt Langford and Hurston Waldrop. Hurston Waldrop on the mound. Waldrop and Langford are both in the bigs now.
They are, and they're playing with the primary team. I mean, Waldrop started the other day for Atlanta.
Yep.
And of course, we know Langford is in Texas.
Yeah. So I think I'm a believer that it'll be interesting to see how long it takes Caglione to get up, since it took Langford 40 games and Waldrop less than that, because you counted as a mound, 15 appearances on the bump. It took him to get up. So it'll be interesting to see a year from now how long it takes Cags to get up. I just cross my fingers, JC, with everything that's in my heart and soul, and hope that he does not end up with the A's. Because
he'll get to play in Las Vegas at some point. I mean,
maybe.
But that is I mean, they're building this. I think they're building a stadium there for the A's. So that the owner's moving them out of Oakland. I can pretty much. I know
it's
that.
I know the city doesn't. The city does. It's the cheapest owner in baseball that has no vision for anything. Even small market teams figure things out because of where they are strapped financially, cash wise, and he doesn't want to do anything. He don't want to do anything. Go to Vegas. It's a bad organization. It just is. It's a bad organization. And everybody, I can tell you, what can you tell me about the Oakland A's? The first reaction, everybody says, Brad Pitt Moneyball. That wasn't real. So it's one of those things that, I hope he doesn't end up there. Cleveland, fantastic. Even if the Pirates, put him in the Rockies, fine.
He may end up in Chicago the way they're going right now. Yeah, he may end up with the White Sox, and that's I tell you, if he gets a place where there's a friendly hitting porch like Yankee Stadium for a left-hander, wow, wouldn't that be kind of exciting for a guy like that? And I know that's not happening because New York won't be picking that low, or that high, I should say. But I think the issue, not to talk much about Oakland, but I think he hates the stadium. The Alameda Coliseum is nothing short of a toilet, really. And that part of town is, I'll just leave it at that. Seth, you realize tonight we got Game 6 of the Florida Panthers' quest to try to win a cup, and they've kind of, like me, thrown up all over themselves here in the last two games. What's happening here?
What? We have seen teams lose 3-0 series leads in conference finals. We've never seen it on that stage, right?
Oh my God!
We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it in the Red Sox, of course, the Yankees. Was it the Maple Leafs the one year that came back down?
The Panthers. No, the Panthers did it to the Bruins 2 years ago. They did it to the damn Bruins. And so, I mean, wow. The Florida, I had to think that at some point Edmonton, being as good as they are, was going to figure out something with Florida's defense. But now it's incumbent upon the Panthers to adjust to what Edmonton's doing right, because they have scored 12 goals in the last two games, the Oilers. Now, granted, some of those 8 goals in Game 5 came in garbage time against the second guy, but they have figured something out offensively, and Edmonton is a team that can win 4 straight against anybody. Yes. And these are the two most elite, I think, teams in the world, not just in the NHL. They could go anywhere and beat anybody, and probably would. But Florida has to figure out something tonight. And, I mean, the only reason I'm talking about this is because they are 4.5, 5 hours away. And we're looking at a 4th Stanley Cup for the state of Florida, and we're looking at the 3rd Stanley Cup for the state of Florida in 4 years or 5, maybe. I'm not even figuring out what Tampa Bay did, but that would be tremendous. It would be the 3rd Stanley Cup in 4 years or 5 years. So I mean, I'm rooting for the Panthers, man. We gotta pull this one out.
Yeah, I sit here and I look at this, and if Edmonton wins tonight, and they're at home, should win tonight. You have to ask yourself, if this goes back to Sunrise, who would you rather be? The team playing at home, or the team that's won 3 in a row with the best player in the world?
right now, I think all of the momentum and the trend is clearly with Edmonton to force a Game 7. And I said that after Game 4. I said if Florida doesn't win Game 5, it's going 7. So that's to assume that I think Edmonton's winning Game 6, and I don't see why they wouldn't. Why wouldn't they? I mean, they're playing on home. They don't care. I think Edmonton is so talented that the pressure to them, I think, has come off since they fell behind 3-0. They just kind of threw caution to the wind in games 4 or 5, and I think they will in 6. And it's up to Florida to make the adjustments. I'll call it the QB, Seth. So that's where we're at. Seth got Barone 71 here saying Napier needs to start 4-0 this year. Right now, he needs to prove he can be a good game day head coach. Now, we've talked about Billy Napier. He was one of the most sought-after coaches in football when Florida was looking for a coach. And here he is, 2 seasons, not very good. Do you think he's a good game day head coach if with what you've seen so far?
He struggles with timeouts and management at the end of the halves.
I mean, I've seen that too.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
He struggles immensely with that. And that's one of those things that, like Les Miles at LSU, all the years, all the talent he had in the world, and then would, for some reason, found a way to mangle situations in the final 2 minutes with the clock. So that's one of those things fans will forgive every now and then, heartbreak and heartache and losses, and the time mismanagement is one of those things that fan bases are unforgiving of. It's weird how that works sometimes, but they're just unforgiving of it. He says he has to start out 4-0. JC, that sounds nice. He doesn't have to start out 4-0. He has to finish 2-2.
2-2.
He has to finish 2-2. That's the success of the season. And because the last 4 games are what? The last 4 games, he has to finish 2-2. His last 4 games, he has to go 2-2.
Oh, the last 4 games.
The first 4. That's great. Okay.
Well, I mean, you don't think that Miami game is, like I was saying earlier in the show, I mean, if you go 0-1,
I know,
even if you go 1-2 or 2-1, I mean,
you lose to Miami and then win 3 in a row, 4 in a row, and he's 4-1, and everybody's like, it sucks. The big, and maybe we get to the point that the wheels will come off by then, but the final 4 games in reverse order are what? Florida State, Ole Miss, is it LSU and Georgia, and then
something
Texas
like
before that. So
yeah, it's an absurd finish.
You go 2-2 in those final 4, you're going to be fine. Going to be fine.
That's interesting. Yeah. But I mean, what's the reality of that if you have a slow start? I don't know. I mean, I think, like I said, in baseball, we talked about this. You can recover because of how long and how many games you play and how long the season is. But in football, every single game now, even with a 12-team playoff, we're talking about a special situation in Florida who's coming off a season where they didn't even have a postseason. I don't need to rehash the disappointment of the last 2 years. But the fact of the matter is, if they don't beat Miami, Seth, you're going to, like I said, you're going to see rats flying off the boat like it's sinking faster than the damn Titanic. And I don't know if that was fast or not, but it went down. And there was no stopping it. But A&M, everybody, Shane's on here saying, we got A&M. We got one take the Connor Wegman is going to be a tough quarterback to deal with. Especially with the defense. We've got to be better on defense, offensive line stuff. But Texas A&M's got athletes running around all over the place, all over the field, man. They're Texas A&M. They're not a great record, but boy, they got players, man. And if this guy Elko finds something, this is only the 3rd game of the year. So I'm not trying to sound the alarms and trying to get all worried about that and this and that. But the question was, is he a good game day head coach? And so
the last 3 years, final 6 games in each year, 18 games, right?
Okay.
7-11. Florida Gator football is 7-11. Their final 6 games each of the last 3 years. So everybody wants to get Everybody wants to get off to a good start. That's fine. JC, you can go 4-1, 5-1. Oh, that's fine. Fine. You go out, Texas, LSU, Georgia, Ole Miss, Florida State. Doesn't matter if you start off 5-1, you lay eggs in those 5. It doesn't matter. We're at halftime. We're a little bit past halftime here.
I'm going to get a Gatorade. I've got to get a Gatorade.
JC got a Gatorade. And then I've got a question with the celebration last night at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, it got me thinking of Major League Baseball, a question that was asked last night, and then a Gator question that can be asked after what we watched last night. I've got those questions for JC next. You're listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning here on this Friday, June 21st, 2024, with Seth Harp from Harp on Sports, in for Shane Matthews and JC.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union.
Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Our gridiron sponsors are UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker Sporting Goods. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
We roll along on this Friday. Seth Harp in for Shane Matthews. JC with us as well, as he is every Friday. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Brought to you in part by QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief, no surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation with QC Kinetics today. Also, on top of that, quick reminder to everyone, I got a question for us. You can fire away, courtesy of, on Facebook, Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube question, courtesy of Quality Plumbing, residential, commercial plumbing care since 1984, along with emergency repair. Their name says it all. Baseball, Major League Baseball gets a lot of criticism, rightfully so. Rob Manfred the last few years, I think the universal DH has been great. I love it. Love it. I love it.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, but I don't like Rob Manfred.
Oh, yeah, I
think
did.
what they did to Atlanta, take the All-Star game away.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there
hell.
have been things that have been brutal, but the last 2 years, universal DH, the pitch clock, no doubt has made the game more consumable. And then one thing that they've done a great job of the last 5 years, the Field of Dreams game, the game last night at Rickwood Park or Rickwood Field, the tribute throwback to the Negro Leagues. And I was sitting here thinking about this because you do this in baseball. You don't really do this in any other sport. You talk about who's the greatest living baseball player. And I had somebody the other day say, well, it's got to be Trout or Ohtani. I'm like, no. That question is designed as living legend. Who's the greatest living legend in baseball? When I was a kid, it was always Joe DiMaggio. And then when Joe passed, it became Ted Williams, then Hank Aaron, then Willie Mays. Now that Willie's gone.
Now that what?
Now that Willie's gone.
Oh, right.
Who's baseball's greatest living legend now that Willie Mays is gone? Because we've always had these old school dudes from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. 60s and kind of being lenient there.
Well, Derek Jeter won a lot of championships, captain of the Yankees. I thought, as a non-pitcher, and so, as a Yankee fan, I'm going to think of him first. But, George Brett was a great player. I mean, for Kansas City, what he did in the 70s. Pete Rose, the all-time leading hitter. was so good. And so these are the kinds of players I think of. Johnny Bench at catcher, because he's living. Of course, I'm a Thurman Munson guy, but Johnny Bench was unbelievable as a hitting catcher. Catcher is a position that is not required to be more than maybe a 250 hitter at most. And Johnny Bench was as threatening a hitter as just about anybody in that Cincinnati Big Red Machine lineup. So you look at guys like that, and, Seth, to answer your question, I'm sure some Dodgers got to be in there, but I don't like the Dodgers. But I think that you go to the teams that have the traditions and the record and the pedigree, and so that's why I bring up guys like that. And that's what I would say.
It's interesting because there's a guy that played for the Yankees I have in here, but this is one of these things. For the last 40, 50 years, when you bring up names, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, Hank Aaron, yeah. For the first,
but he's not living. He's not living.
Yeah, but for the first time, this is a debate.
Well,
nobody would argue Willie Mays. I mean, good gracious, what Willie Mays did in terms of
over 500 home runs,
defensively, power hitting. The greatest living legend to me. I wrote down a couple of names here, and pitchers kind of take a back seat to this. Nobody's going to say Rivera or Maddox or Clemens. The name that people leave off here, and I get it, is Barry Bonds. But Barry Bonds still at 750 home runs and, was doing 40-40 stuff before the steroid era hit. There's two names that people leave off here. And I've heard these discussions the last 48 hours. The guy that scored the most runs in baseball history, got 3,000 hits, won World Series, played for the Yankees. Nobody's within 600 of his stolen base record. Nobody ever mentions Ricky Henderson.
Yeah.
Ricky Henderson's got more leadoff home runs than any baseball player ever. He scored more runs than any player ever. He's got more stolen bases than any player ever. Nobody ever mentions Ricky Henderson.
Yeah.
And the guy that everybody leaves off, how many shortstops, JC, can you think of off the top of your head that have over 400 home runs and 3,000 hits?
Not many.
Ernie Banks didn't get 3,000 hits.
Cal Ripken Jr.
Yes. And I didn't even mention what he's known for. So when you have that record and you have 400 home runs and 3,000 hits as a shortstop, I mean, Cal Ripken, I think what happened with Cal Ripken Jr. is the streak became the man. And I get it. I understand why. But you look at what Cal Ripken Jr. did. People say if he doesn't have the streak, he's just a regular baseball player. It's like, yeah, right. That guy's got 3,000 hits and 400 home runs as a shortstop. So Cal Ripken Jr. to me would be that guy. I understand the Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, and there's no, Ricky Henderson. There's no one of these. Oh, this is definitely the guy. It's just sad that the guys that you bring up now retired in the last 20 years. You're living legends that we've talked about when I talked about Mays and Hank Aaron, and before that, Ted Williams. And those guys are historical figures in the sport. And I guess it shines, JC, if we're aging, because guys that now fit that bill, I remember when they were rookies or played college baseball. So it shows you we're in that era where our generation are now the legends.
So, Seth, I want to, since we only got you for another 10 minutes here, I wanted to go through, if you're into this, I wanted to look at this schedule. And you talked about the last 6 games for Florida, and Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Mississippi, Florida State. Where on this schedule, other than Samford, is there going to be a game where a Gator fan walks into the stadium or turns on the TV and is not afraid of losing? What game is on the schedule? And, people say embrace the schedule. Okay, yeah, I'm all in. If you can get through this schedule, you're going to make the college football playoffs if you have a good record, perhaps, because you're going to be ranked highly, because this schedule is crazy. And so I look at one game other than Samford, and it's still hard as hell, and that's Central Florida. Central Florida is not going to be a patsy. And so I flip it around, and let's say I'm Mississippi State, and I'm looking at the schedule that they have. and they play teams like Georgia, Arkansas, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Texas. What do they think when they look at Florida? Oh, that's a game we can win. That's what they're thinking. So then if you flip it back to Florida and you say, oh, Mississippi State's got to be that game in Starkville, that's a win. Well, is it? Is it really? So I just think that so much has to be proven in the first two games that it's going to set the tone for the rest of the season. And I totally agree with you that the last 4 games or 5 or 6 are going to define the season. They truly are. But what if Florida starts out 5 or 6-1, dude? Don't you think that's going to make those last 6 games look a little different from Florida's perspective and from maybe even LSU's perspective? They got to come here. I know they've won 4 in a row against Florida, but what if they say, hey, we're going to play the Gators in Gainesville this year and they're 5-1 already? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny, the things that you've brought up. The thing that's changed a little bit is throwing Oklahoma and Texas into the fray, and no longer divisions. Florida has benefited so much the last decade from a weak SEC East. So is Georgia, but Florida's has benefited immensely. Now that that's gone and you don't have that changes a lot of things. So you swap out South Carolina and Vandy for who?
You'd swap them out for Texas and Mississippi or A&M. And I think it is just morally wrong that somebody ask a team to play Georgia and Texas within 7 days. That just, somebody at the conference, in the conference office, has said, we're going to shit all over Florida. But, excuse the expression, but really, honest to God, nobody has. Nobody in America. And Shay's over there saying, JC, I get it, but you got to play the game, dude. You got to embrace it. You got to go after it. Okay, fine. But nobody in America has 2 games back to back as ridiculous as that on their schedule. Oh, and then LSU comes in. So athletes everywhere. Florida's going to have to grow up fast, and they're going to have to find a defense, and they're going to have to find a way to protect poor old Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz got hurt when he was running for his life going forward against Missouri. Going forward. He wasn't going sideways. He wasn't dropping back. He was running for his life, and that's how he got hurt against Missouri, who is going to probably be another surprise team this year. So Florida's going to be a surprise team. You're right. They're going to have to finish strong, but they have got to start the year off at worst before the open break 3-1. At worst 3-1.
And the issue that we brought up and discussed this, but football, I can't think of the last time that they've gotten stronger as the season's gone on. Look back last year, Washington got better. Oregon got better. Michigan had guys get hurt, but they got better. Alabama definitely got better after losing early, and then went on flipping that switch.
Milroe got better,
teams get better. I can't think of the last time a Florida football team got better as the season went on.
And maybe the year they had Trask and they went to the SEC championship. Maybe that year. With Mullins.
Yeah, after they lost to A&M, 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, and
maybe that's the last time it really does stick out to me, because they played tough against Alabama in that half-empty stadium during COVID. So maybe it was that one.
So and you getting off to a strong start, all this stuff's important, but it's also one of these things that if they don't, and it falls apart on them, it's one of these situations with Billy. Billy's trying to build this long term. He's got a great recruiting class. He's got the quarterback. How patient are you?
Well, regardless of what happens, he's going to finish the season. I don't care what their record is going into the Georgia game. They're not going to pay him off until after the year if they have to at all. But if he can win 7 games, I think he's safe for the and I'm not into the business of predicting Florida's win total anymore. That is a sucker bet. Don't do it. Hopefully you'll be surprised to the upside. But last year you were definitely surprised to the downside, unless you lived in Vegas, where that's what they predicted. Exactly what happened. So, don't try to figure out how many they're going to win. Just take it 1 week at a time, the old cliche, and win that game against Miami. I agree with Shane. It is the biggest game Florida will be playing in well over 10 years. definitely. I mean, they have got to play well in that game. And I don't want to throw any, and nobody cares what I think anyway, but undue pressure on the Gators is something that every team's going to have in week one anyway. So it's not like we're throwing added pressure by saying they have to beat Miami, but they have to beat Miami. They have to. It's as simple as that.
Well, and this is one of those things, if it doesn't work out for Billy and it does fall apart, this is kind of where you are now with this.
Get someone else.
You start firing coaches after 3 years.
Tough.
Why would I want to come there? And
well, and that, and not only that, but who wants to pay that $20-something million? I mean, they don't want to write a check for that. They don't. But they also don't want to lose.
And the new guy, you remember a couple of years ago when Brian Kelly's agent put feelers out, and he put a feeler out at Florida, and what Brian Kelly wanted was $100 million. Right? And he got close to that with LSU.
Yeah.
If you want to coach like that, JC, it's going to cost you at least $70-80 million.
Isn't that absurd? I mean, it just sounds absolutely.
I always get a kick out of that when I hear fans say, we can go get. Now, you could have done it 3 years ago. He wanted to come here. You could have done it with Lane Kiffin. But if you want to go get Lane Kiffin now, it's going to cost you $80 million.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what he's won necessarily, but you're right. He's brought Ole Miss to at least the forefront of being paid attention to. Look at their start, Seth. Furman, Middle Tennessee State, Wake Forest, Southern Georgia, Kentucky, and South Carolina. I mean, that's their first 6. So, I mean, they're
after all those years of being punished with an SEC West schedule, SEC West teams are going to find it significantly more to their benefit, while SEC East teams are going to find it.
Yes,
those things have changed. Yeah. So it's one of these things that to me from the beginning, I said if Florida can finish above 500, it's a successful season. The last few years, I said 6-6, got that right. And last year I said 6-6. I missed it by a game.
By one. That's all right.
I'll give my prediction later this summer.
So you are going to predict you're going to predict the wins. All right. Well, the other guy predicted 8 wins last year. So I guess you're going to try. I'm not going to do it. I can't figure it out. It's too hard.
I got to be able to say I told you so at the end of the year.
You do. I like that.
PodUp with Matthews in the Morning is brought to you in part by Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, dedicated insurance professionals ready to help you with your life go in the right direction with the insurance options for you and your family. Visit Ogra, OGRA insurance.com. Give them a call, 352-240-1779. That's 352-240-1779. Also, PodUp with Matthews in the Morning brought to you by Campus USA. Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union.
2 things, Seth, as we're running out here. 2 open dates during the year. I love that. I love that for the schedule. I think it's very important to have that. And I don't think there's any doubt with the increased demand for revenue that you're going to see the NCAA basketball tournament expand to 76 teams, maybe 72. I mean, that is a guarantee. These athletic departments, they've got to find more revenue, so they're going to do that. That's one thing you're going to see is more teams now. And with the SEC adding those 2, it's just going to be another great year to watch. I am so excited. I don't know if I've had this much anticipation for a college football season, given the 12-team playoff and the structure of how that's going to work through the month of December, which, as you all know, is a kind of boring month right after the championship game. It's Christmas shopping. It's money, spend money. But now you got football games to spend money on. Here's your Christmas present: 2 tickets to the Sugar Bowl. So anyway, I really can't wait, man. And then watching Oklahoma and Texas kind of merge into this league 1 year before they were originally thought to do it. Now here we are in 2024. Dude, I mean, have you ever had this much anticipation for a football season? I can't remember one like this. This is going to be great.
And, looking at the conferences, the new teams, the new feels, the new look, which goes back, and this is going to be a great way to end the show, JC.
Okay.
Back on something that I've said for a long time. I've been doing this. Next year will be my 30th year in broadcasting.
Oh,
A long time ago, looking at ratings and numbers and algorithms, I quit listening to what fans said a long time ago and what fans say. I watch what you do. I watch what you do. I'm excited. You all are excited. Every single day is a college football debate, college football discussion. It's great. So,
yes.
12-team playoff, you're excited, right? Anticipation.
Yeah.
Hey, look at
It makes December good.
So NIL's not ruining the sport.
Hell no, I don't care about that. I mean, that's not my problem. My problem is not raising money for NIL. Okay, that's not my problem. My problem is watching. Can I stay up from noon for big noon all the way through midnight? Can I do that on a Saturday, week after week after week? And I mean, my God, look at the schedule for the SEC on October 12th and 19th. Just pull it up when you can, if you have a spare time. And think about 12 o'clock game, flex game, night game. I mean, it's incredible. It's going to be so fun. I'm just so excited. It's less than we got 2 months now. So, yeah.
And it's just a consumption thing. And I always get a kick out of it. NIL's ruining the sport. Nobody ever tells you how. Right? It's like, well, they're paying for players. They've been doing that for years, except now out in the open. And you get what you're doing is you're getting to see how the sausage is made. If you like it, that's how this has been done for years. It's ruining the game, and I can't wait for it to start. So
I love you, bro. You're funny. I mean, you basically do say what I think a lot of times with this kind of stuff. This is excellent. But by the way, what's that Alabama thing you got back there behind your left shoulder? Left shoulder.
I've got when I worked in was that when I was in Mobile?
Okay.
We were an affiliate in that.
Got a lot of neat stuff back there, man. That's pretty good.
I went to Oklahoma City for the College World Series.
Yeah, there you go.
Oklahoma City, my little ice cream hat. Oklahoma City's baseball team, it's the Dodgers, but they're called the Oklahoma City Baseball Club. I thought that, by the way, I can see why Omaha had to build their new stadium. Bricktown's beautiful.
It is. It truly is. Yep.
That's a cool city. Oklahoma City, I enjoyed my time there. That was a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
Oh, by the way, another note really quick before we leave, and I know we're over here. Jocelyn Erickson.
Yeah.
NIL. She was most outstanding catcher for Gators catcher.
Yeah. Softball. Yeah.
She was transfer portal NIL. Just let everybody know that the Gators
worked out, didn't it? Worked out just great.
It's amazing. NIL is ruining the sport.
Worked out great.
They're on the cusp of So there you go. All right, thanks for participating, JC. Zach Rothrock. I know Shane.
I feel better.
Get better. Feel better. All right. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and enjoy the College World Series. I say Tennessee wins it in 3.
I agree.
Yep. So there you go. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. For JC, I'm Seth Harp, Zach Rothrock, Shane Matthews, the entire gang. This has been PodUp with Matthews in the morning.
All right.